Good evening and welcome to tonight's episode of Behind the Badge. I'll be your host for the evening. I'm Officer Jason Ross. With me tonight I have Officer Matt Zakarian and Sergeant John Gilkerson, both of our Community Policing Unit, otherwise known as our COPS Unit. Tonight we're going to be talking about safe neighborhoods. Before we get started, I'd like to remind you it's a live call-in show. Phone number is 818-548-3344. We're talking about safe neighborhoods, and before we get started, I'd like to have each of you introduce yourself. Sergeant John Gilkerson, can you tell me a little bit about yourself?
I can. I've been a police officer for the city of Glendale full-time since 1987. At that time, I was hired full-time. I was reserved for a few years before that. I worked patrol when I came out of the academy. In 1991, I went to the Traffic Bureau, worked on a motorcycle for, about 7 years. In 1999, I went to air support and was fortunate enough to fly the department's helicopter until I was promoted in July of 2006. I went to patrol for 18 months, and in January of 2008, I became the supervisor in the Community Policing Unit.
All right. It's great having you on the show.
Thank you.
Matt Zakarian, can you tell me a little bit about yourself?
I sure can. I'm Officer Zakarian. I work community policing in the North Area Command. I've been with the department now for 7 years. 3 as a reserve officer, and I came full-time, worked patrol for a few years, and now into community policing, where I, again, cover the North Area.
All right. John, what is COPS?
COPS, C-O-P-P-S, as some people have probably seen it, is the Community Police Partnership. It's an acronym. And it was established back in the early 90s as a unit under then Police Chief James Anthony. And his idea was to try to bring the community more into law enforcement and integrate more with the police department. And he saw the way to do that most easily is establishing a unit that could go out and do community outreach and things like that. And so he took Community Police Partnership, made an acronym, and called it COPS, C-O-P-P-S. And you'll see that on some of our cars. It's not a misspelling.
All right. So it's a policing theory, if you will, that's implemented to address things in a different manner from how policing was done prior to the implementation of COPS?
It is. Ours is kind of a hybrid. There's community-oriented policing and there's problem-oriented policing. Community-oriented policing tries to integrate more with the community, bring the community into problem solve, to be more integrated with law enforcement, to let us know what their concerns are. It's not always a police problem. It might be a quality of life issue or something like that. And then there's also problem-oriented policing. When we go onto a call and patrol, if it's a busy night, you call the police for an issue, we come out, and we try to deal with it as soon as we can, and as quickly as we can, before we have to get back in our car and go off to the next radio call. Problem-oriented policing is to try to solve long-term problems. We have time to devote to more long-term solutions, and they may not just be police solutions. They may include landlords, other city agencies, and things like that. So it's kind of a hybrid, community policing and problem-oriented policing.
Okay. Now, how many officers do you have devoted to community policing, and how do they interact with the rest of the department? Currently
we have 8 what we call community lead officers. They're geographically based, and they integrate very well with the rest of the police department. They are integrated with patrol. They're integrated with the Detective Bureau. They're integrated with the community, and they do a lot of things in that manner.
You mentioned quality of life issues, and you also said that there's some other agencies involved. Just so the viewers at home have a grasp as to what a typical COPS day is like and some of the problems you address and some of the other agencies you interact with. Tell me a little bit more about the day-to-day interaction that takes place.
Depends on the problem. We may have an issue where we're working on, say, a landlord-tenant issue, and so we can involve a county agency to come in and try to mediate that sort of thing. It may be an issue with a building where we call neighborhood services and have them come out and inspect a building. Fire issues where we think we may have a fire department issue, call the inspectors out. We integrate with a lot of the city agencies, both within city government and agencies that are located outside city government, to help us fulfill our goal.
All right. I'd like to remind everybody at home that this is a live call-in show. We'd love to hear from you. We're going to be here for an hour. We're going to be talking about safe neighborhoods. Phone number is 818-548-3344. It's 818-548-3344. Please give us a call. We'd love to hear from you. We're talking with Sergeant Gilkerson and Officer Matt Zakarian from our Community Policing Unit. Matt, I haven't forgotten about you. You deal a lot with Neighborhood Watch. Can you tell me just a little bit about what Neighborhood Watch is?
I do. You know, I've wanted the neighborhoods involved it really brings the community to light. And I think what happens is we forget, we go with day-to-day life and not really knowing who our neighbors are. And I think that by getting Neighborhood Watch started, it's not necessarily reinventing it. However, it's just getting people back out of the house. It's getting people to come out and meet their neighbors, find out who their neighbors are. I see a lot of the problems that I've had in the little over 2 years that I've been in community policing has been mostly because people aren't getting along. And I think, again, we get so busy in our day-to-day life, we forget to breathe and go across the street and meet our neighbors. When there's crime occurring, if you don't know who your neighbors are, we've had several instances where somebody saw a crime happening right across the street, and they didn't know who lived there. So therefore, they didn't know to call the police, or they didn't know that these were actually thieves that were stealing stuff out of the house across the street. So by us again, bringing the community together lets them know who their neighbors are so that they can now actually recognize who's actually should be in their neighborhood and who shouldn't.
I remember growing up occasionally seeing the little Neighborhood Watch sign. This area is patrolled by Neighborhood Watch. And I remember thinking, I had no idea what it was. I'd never heard of Neighborhood Watch. I thought it was, a group of people with binoculars that were constantly spying on neighbors' houses or something like that. There's actually a practical use in forming Neighborhood Watch groups that helps us do our job, right?
Yes, I think in the days of old where there was a phone tree, where if there was a problem happening in the area, the phone tree would go out. With the advent of the internet, you now can contact a vast number of neighbors with just a few key punches on a computer. Most, I would say, probably 75 to 80% of the neighborhoods have email and are able to respond by email. We've had situations where there was a lost dog and they contacted the block captain or the neighborhood watch leader, and we had somebody else contact that same neighborhood watch leader saying they found a dog. So as simple as lost items in the street to unusual circumstances or problems or unusual people or some Glendale Municipal Code violations such as stealing recyclables or solicitation. Those are all items that, again, community policing handles. And again, the Neighborhood Watch, once they're educated of what's going on and trained on what to do, this will help mitigate a lot of the problems in our neighborhoods.
Now, how many Neighborhood Watch groups do we have currently in the city of Glendale?
I want to say we have over 50 Neighborhood Watch. Some are active more than others. We have some real active ones up in my area. I can't speak for the other officers who aren't here, but I think they've got actually quite a few of active Neighborhood Watch where we can send out emails and they can tell us what's going on. We can tell them what's going on. And we have set up quarterly block captains meetings where we take those block captains that we've trained and bring them back on a quarterly basis to give them education on again, things like solicitation, home security, self-defense on how to handle their own problems, and disaster preparedness, too.
Now, I heard you use the term block captain. What is a block captain?
Block captain is usually somebody that will step up and become a leader of their neighborhood. It's usually somebody that's sensible and knows when to call and when not to call. It's not generally going to be somebody that are the complainant type, the ones that can usually figure out problems along themselves.
All right. Sergeant Gilkerson, any insight on the Neighborhood Watch topic while we're on it?
Yeah, I think that 50 is about a good number of those on the books, if you will. But a lot of them have gone inactive. They don't stay in contact with us. I think one of the things that really I would like to see come out of not only National Night Out, which I know we'll talk more about, of a few weeks ago, but also tonight's show, and that would be to have more Neighborhood Watch groups on the books, active, who attend the quarterly training, the quarterly meetings, who get to know who their neighbors are. They pick a geographic area that they want to coordinate. And the Neighborhood Watch program, although it's as you said when you were a kid, you saw the signs. It's old. It's been around for a good long time, but it's still a good program.
And who does it benefit? I take it benefits us because it's helping us, it's giving us another set of eyes and ears on the streets to tip us off when a crime is in progress. I take it the people that are part of these Neighborhood Watch groups can benefit as well?
Absolutely. One of the things with community-oriented policing that we would like is for when someone sees something in the neighborhood that doesn't quite fit, or they don't know if that person or that situation really belongs in the neighborhood, that they may call the police, or they may call the neighbor down the street, who they now know through the Neighborhood Watch program, and say, hey, can you take a look outside and see if you see what I'm seeing, or have you noticed this sort of thing going on? And it just kind of helps to improve the intelligence for not only the neighborhood but also the police in terms of crime trends and activities.
Now, these neighborhood watch groups are done geographically. I'm going to use that to kind of segue into area command. This is a new strategy our department's trying or has placed in effect that we're actually implementing and using on a day-to-day basis to help solve crime trends and things like that. Can you tell me a little bit about area command?
I can. Area command was instituted here in Glendale last October when just after Chief DePompa was sworn in and took the helm of the police department. And he wanted the city broken into geographic areas, which it already was, but he wanted to realign those areas and make it more, make each area more equally sized, and then put a manager in charge of each one of those areas. As you know from your patrol days, back when we worked in patrol, we were responsible for the beats. And there was a thing back when I came on called beat accountability, and it was the officer's job to be accountable for the activity that went on, for the trends that occurred in his beat, and to try to mitigate some of the problems that were happening. And that's the way traditional policing has always been. But now that we have the area command idea, we have managers who are each responsible for an area, a lieutenant. And they are the ones who are ultimately accountable to the chief for the activity and the efforts in each one of their areas. So instead of the responsibility filtering through the ranks down to the officer, it now filters down to a lieutenant who is not only accountable, but more importantly, he is more able to direct resources to focus on the issues and the problems in his area.
I remember working in patrol. Occasionally, you would get a problem area, narcotics activities, a certain problem area, maybe graffiti or something like that, and it would motivate the officer to try and address it in a long-term fashion, so that you didn't have to keep responding back there over time, but there was no one directly responsible for coordinating those efforts. And if I'm hearing right, that's what the lieutenants being placed in charge of each area are doing now?
Correct. Two things that these lieutenants are very good at doing, all of them. They can direct the resources that they need more efficiently than the officers can to get, whether it's a graffiti problem or a car burglary problem or even a spate of robberies going on. They can direct resources to try to mitigate that. They can also more easily coordinate with other city agencies to try to alleviate things like neighborhood services deals with graffiti. They can work with gangs to identify certain taggings to try to identify not only the group that a graffiti artist may belong to, but who that specific person is based on his tagging. And the other thing is they are involved in a lot of our community outreach, getting together with the community at Neighborhood Watch, quarterly meetings, town halls, things like that.
All right. So, I'd like to remind everybody at home, this is a live call-in show. We're about to take our first call of the evening. The phone number is 818-548-3344. It's 818-548-3344. We're talking about safe neighborhoods and community policing. We're going to take our first caller, Linda on line 1. Linda, you have a question about home safety advice?
Hello?
Yes, Linda, are you there?
Yes. First of all, I wanted to compliment the department on the outstanding job that they're doing. Me and my neighbors really, really appreciate it very, very much. I just wanted to know, do you guys still offer coming out to homes to give our neighbors some home safety tips?
I believe we do. Sergeant Gilkerson, are you aware of the resources that are available out there? I believe the community policing unit used to send officers out to houses to kind of do a perimeter check to make sure that the house doesn't have any flaws that would leave it vulnerable to thefts or things like that.
We do. We have done that, and we actually had a civilian who was trained in that area who has since left the unit, but with the group that we currently have, we can do that kind of thing. We can send officers out and do what's called a CEPTED, crime prevention through environmental design. And while it usually is most effective when something's being installed or built, and we try to mitigate the areas that might prove beneficial to criminals, we can come out and look at your house and see if you need to have shrubs trimmed back, see if your locks are sufficient, and so forth. So we can do a lot of that. So we still do that. Our area command, our community lead officers will come out for that area and do that sort of thing for you.
Linda, I hope that helps you out there. The phone number for the community policing unit, we haven't put it out yet tonight, is 818-548-4015. That's 548-4015. Give them a call, set something up with the officer that's in charge of your area, and they'll come out and help you out with that. Thanks for the call. Oh, sorry about that. Our next call, we've got Joe on line 3. It says Uncle Joe in Glendale. Joe, are you there?
Yeah, hello.
How you doing?
I'm doing okay.
How can I help you this evening?
Yeah, I'm here. I want to compliment all of you. I'm proud of all of you.
Well, thank you very much, Joe.
Well, I want you to protect me.
All right. Thanks for calling in, Joe. You have a good evening.
Thank you. Bye.
All right, bye. All right. In just a few minutes here, we're going to show a video on National Night Out. Sergeant Gilkerson, before we get into that, can you give me a brief preview? What is National Night Out?
Well, as the name suggests, it is something that takes place nationwide on one night each August, and it was August 3rd this year. The idea of National Night Out is to bring people out of their homes and to meet one another in the neighborhoods. And we got a lot of comments from some of the people involved in National Night Out this year that, I've lived here for X number of years and I never met that person until tonight. So we have had kind of a tradition in Glendale of doing one event per year in one specific place where the city can come out and join us. But the problem is, if you do an event all the way down in the south end of town, then you probably don't get a lot of people from the other areas. Some can travel, but many will not. If you do it in the north end of town, as we did in 2008, then you may not touch a lot of the south or the east or the west command citizens. So when we got around to 2009, we decided to do as many as we could in each area, and we got 7 last in 2009. This year, the community lead officers went out, they pushed through the community, they got a lot of the citizens to volunteer, and we ended up with 26 events throughout the city. So it was a chance for a lot of people to come out and meet their neighbors. And some of these were big events. We had one at Pacific Park that had a few hundred people. Some of these are smaller events. They were held on front yards or backyards with 25 or 30 people, but they were all successful if they brought their neighbors out and they got to meet each other. So National Night Out, traditionally, and it's been around for 20-some years, it was to say no to crime, say no to drugs, increase crime awareness in the neighborhood, meet your neighbors. With one big event, we could have a lot of resources. In 2008, we had the fire department, we had our SWAT team, we had motorcycle officers, we had outside vendors, not selling things, but coming in for information, anti-crime, anti-drug. And those are great events, but if you have it in one geographic area, you don't touch the whole city like we really should try to do. So with 27 events around town, we touched a lot of people. We projected an attendance somewhere around 1,290 with the projected attendance from each group, and we ended up probably touching 1,000 people.
All right. Well, before we go to the video, I'd like to take David's call. David in Glendale, it says you've got a question about vacation checks. Are you there, David?
Yes, I'm here. How are you?
Good. How's it going?
Good, thanks. I have a couple questions, actually. The first one is, do you have anything where the community can get involved in preventing things, making your neighborhood safe, such as a citizens academy? And my second question is, if I go out on vacation, do the police check if I'm gone? Is there any service like that?
All right, those are 2 really good questions. Thanks for calling in tonight. And I've let Matt off the hook here long enough. Matt, I heard 2 questions there. We've got a Citizens Academy. Do we have anything like that? And vacation checks when people are gone. Do we have a Citizens Academy?
Well, we do have a Citizens Academy in the works, I believe. I'm going to give that to Sergeant Gilkerson because he's heading that up. I'll answer the vacation check after Sergeant Gilkerson's finished.
Fair enough. Excuse me. The Citizens Academy, which a little bit of background is a chance for people to come into the police department. We have done a 12-week academy, which in the past was Wednesday nights. It was 6 to 9 p.m., and it was set up for about 25 people or so. And it gave them the chance to come in and meet a lot of the officers who did a lot of specific things, like canine handlers, robbery investigators, motorcycle officers, all these people that they see through their day-to-day interaction with the police as they may be driving down the street or in their businesses. But it gave them a chance to come in for 12 weeks and get 2 lectures per night over a 3-hour period on all these topics, and a lot of in-depth, and some of the very popular things. Air support, the helicopter came in and landed on the roof. The forensics people came in and gave lectures on how they did forensics, and it was really edifying for the people that were involved, because I know I ran one group of about 25 people, and they very much enjoyed it. We've done 3 of them. There is the hope and the plan for another one coming up this January. So hopefully we'll be able to pull one together again with budgeting such as it is, and so there is one tentatively kind of on the horizon. We're still working toward that.
All right. It sounds like it would be a very beneficial experience and educational for the people that take part in it. Who's eligible to take part in it?
Basically, anybody. We're mostly focused on people who live in Glendale or who may work in Glendale, have an interest in the police department. It's really not exclusionary of anybody. There is a small background check just to make sure that there's not anybody with a real criminal background coming in, but it's very light, and it's because it's an educational thing. There's really nothing. There's nothing strenuous about it. One of the benefits is a Saturday afternoon up at the range with the SWAT team, which I think was the most popular day. And so anybody who's interested to see how we work, and some people, I didn't know anybody really coming into the last Citizens Academy that we did. I think there were some people there who really were fans of the police department and wanted to see how it worked. I don't know that they were all fans of the police department, but the point is they got to come in and see what we do, why we do it, how we do it, and to ask questions one-on-one with the staff, 12 weeks in a row.
It seems really beneficial. I know growing up I would have loved the opportunity to get to see how a police department works, and it's oftentimes, we find ourselves busy with our personal life. We sit at home, we watch TV, and you see the headlines, what the police department does, what it was involved in, what happened over here. But to see the day-to-day activities, I'm sure that was incredibly beneficial. I'd like to remind everybody, live call-in show, 818-548-3344. That's 818-548-3344. We're talking safe neighborhoods. And the second part of that last question was on vacation checks. Matt, can you tell me a little bit about those?
Yes, vacation checks. It's something that we have available for people that go on vacations for usually up to 2 weeks. We try not to do any more than that. We don't do houses that are vacant for sale or rental properties unless the owner is actually, the resident is actually requesting the vacation check. That helps us be able to handle the load we have, especially during the summer when a lot of people go on vacations. Pretty simple process. What we do is you will call in, or there's a form at some of the substations where you can actually fill out that form. It will have our retired citizens on patrol that go out and they'll actually check your house. They'll check the gate, they'll check the front door, and they will also make sure that everything looks secure based on that form that you filled out, such as what vehicle should be in the driveway, when the gardener comes, if there's dogs in the backyard, so on and so forth. We are working on actually getting this form put online, so you'll be able to do that through the internet.
All right. Well, before we go to the video here on National Night Out, I'd like to remind everybody again, it's a live call-in show. I don't see any calls holding right now, so we'll go ahead and take a minute and watch the video on National Night Out.
This night is about taking the community back. This night is about claiming your city as your own. I don't know if a lot of you are aware, but unfortunately, Pacific Community Center has been the victim of a lot of unfortunate acts of vandalism. And tonight we are here just as one community, just letting everybody know that we're not going to stand for that, and that the reason we are here is to let everybody know that we care about our community, we care about this center, and we care about these kids.
And I chose to come to Pacific Park because these are some of the most dense neighborhoods in the city. So everyone that lives here has to pull together, has to work with their local police, get to know them, and do everything that we can to upgrade this section of Glendale.
And the reason why the city of Glendale is one of the safest large cities in the country is because we have such a great partnership with the community and such a great level of support by you folks who comprise the neighborhood. So we greatly appreciate you being here. This is a wonderful event, and it highlights the priority that we all place on public safety, and that's priceless. You can't put a price tag on that.
Yeah, they drove by, so they won't sit.
We're out here tonight to try to get to know our neighbors, honestly. National Night Out is all about trying to get out to meet your neighbors and really try to promote Neighborhood Watch so we can have a safer neighborhood. These are our neighborhoods and our communities, and we really have to be the eyes and the ears for the police in our local neighborhoods. They can't be here all the time, and so I think we have to take responsibility for safety and for crime prevention in our neighborhoods. There seems to be a barrier that I think most people feel between themselves and the police. And as we have relationships with the police officers, hopefully we can kind of lower that barrier and feel more comfortable to contact the police if we see something that just doesn't seem right in our neighborhoods. And they're truly here to help. And I've been very impressed to learn that as I've gotten to know some of these guys.
Look at this one. Ah, you missed! One more time.
We're all thrilled about tonight's event. Our homeowners association, the Ross Moyne Mountain Homeowners Association, has wanted to utilize Nibley Park for a very long time. This is an important part in our neighborhood and community. And we were very pleased to finally be able to work with the Glendale Police Department and Parks for National Night Out, to have our neighbors come out and come together and build those bonds we've been trying to build for Neighborhood Watch.
The association is very anxious to do good things for the neighborhood and try to knit it together, and I think you probably can tell just by the feeling of people who are meeting each other for the first time, getting to know each other. I think this is a rousing
It is a wonderful opportunity to be able to bring everybody out, to meet each other, to talk about safety, to talk about the concerns that are addressing us, and there's many, many of them. And it's an opportunity to take back our streets, take back our neighborhood, empower the residents, and it's a wonderful opportunity, and I'm so glad that Chief of Police stopped by, along with the officers, the fire department, and it has given us a lot of strength. So we're very happy we participated, and I hope next year more and more communities in Glendale take advantage of this, because this was a wonderful opportunity again to participate.
The intent for National Night Out is for neighbors to form a relationship and get to know the police and the fire and the services in our area, and many of them are here this evening, and it's an opportunity for neighbors to meet them in an informal setting, and that relationship, I think, really fosters neighbors becoming more involved in what's going on in their community and being the eyes of the police, because obviously they can't be on our streets all the time. The relationships that are formed with the police will make them more inclined to get involved. One of the examples I use is that if you were to not know your neighbor and you see something strange going on at a neighbor's home, you might think, well, it's none of my business, I don't want to get involved. But once you've had an opportunity to meet that neighbor, and in this instance tonight, all of our neighbors put a table in front of their house and they hosted and served an hors d'oeuvre or an appetizer or a drink. Once they've had an opportunity to meet someone, I think they're more inclined to get involved. When they see something that doesn't look quite right, I think now they'll think twice about calling the police and alerting someone.
What we tried to do this year with National Night Out, it's an annual event, just to get the neighbors to meet each other. That's the biggest thing we try to do, get neighbors out talking to one another, meet them. As lead officer, I'm responsible for knowing what's going on around here, what the crime trends are, trying to educate them on what they can do to make themselves hard targets so criminals don't want to come here. And, of course, institute and sign up as many people for Neighborhood Watch organization that we have. Get as many block captains signed up as we can so that next year we have 20 more of these and we have a lot less crime. That's really what it's about.
All right, welcome back. For those of you that are just tuning in, we're talking about safe neighborhoods tonight. It's a live call-in show, 818-548-3344. Give us a call. We have two of our fine officers from our community policing unit, Sergeant Gilkerson and Officer Matt Zakarian. Matt, you're a community lead officer. That is your title, correct?
That's correct.
All right. What are the day-to-day duties of a community lead officer? Some people at home are going to see a blue suit with a badge and a gun, and they're going to assume you get in a black and white car and handle bank robberies like everybody else. But it's a little bit different, isn't it?
A little bit, yeah. For the most part, I do the same. I actually will go out and I drive a black and white. I watch my community. I look for problems in the area. Long-term issues. I'll get phone calls throughout the day. When I'm not getting the phone calls about barking dogs or neighbors not being able to get along, then I will actually go in and again start looking through some of the crime statistics and the trends that we have going on in the area so that we can address and redirect our patrol officers in that area so that they know what's going on. Our patrol officers generally work 3 out of the 7 days a week, and so they have some downtime when they're out there working. They're off for 4 days, so they need to be kind of readdressed of what's been happening up in the areas. We've had all sorts of different issues going from drugs. Some of our problems that we were having a few months ago up in my area, up in the north area, we were having a lot of heroin issues. Therefore, what we were trying to do is actually create the long-term problem solving for that. One of the ideas was to create a coalition, a drug and alcohol prevention coalition. We got a few of the community members together so that they could actually create an association that this would be able to stand on its own. Therefore, it wouldn't be relying on my shoulders to try to burden this. We wanted the community involvement in this. Again, that's part of community policing. That's what we do. We involve the community in what we do so that we can actually get the help. Since money's tight, budgets are tight, our time is very difficult of the amount of time we can spend out in one particular issue. We ask the community to come out and help us. We do a great job in policing. However, it never hurts to partner with the community.
Now, I heard you say you're in charge of the north area. Each community lead officer has an area that they're responsible for, right?
That's correct, yes.
Now, you guys have a substation. In the north area you're referring to is Montrose, Lockerson, and
North Glendale. That 91208 north of the college is the North Command. We have an East Command, which has everything south of the Glendale College and north of the 134 freeway. That is Community Lead Officer Sue Shine, along with the lieutenant is Gary Montecuelo. They handle that. In my area, we have Lieutenant Grimes and, of course, myself. In the south area, we have Lieutenant Cohen, and he has 3 community lead officers underneath him because it's such a large area. The south area is everything south of the 134 freeway. We also have in the West Command, we have Lieutenant Fox, who has Officer Kelly Annis, Community Lead Officer Annis, who actually runs the West Command. Everything west is west of Brand and north of the 134 freeway. The east, of course, goes over to Brand Boulevard. I know I'm bouncing around. I wanted to mention the officer's name in the south. We have Officer Salmaron, we have Officer Ulrich, and we have Officer Hamlin. In the and also 4 now, I think we had some coming back from a long-term off. Officer Aguila, Blanca Aguila.
All right. Now, there's a substation up in the Montrose area, right?
Yes.
So, do we have other substations around? What's the purpose behind having a substation?
Well, the area is so large up on the north side of it. There was a substation created about 15 years ago, paid for by the Montrose Shopping Park Association, which allows me to not have to come all the way downtown to work in an office. So I will actually be up in the Montrose substation. Most of my duties, usually 4 days a week. Out of patrol, we work 4 days. And that is at 3808 Ocean View, just above Honolulu. You may have seen it driving by.
All right. I'd like to remind everybody, this is a live call-in show, 818-548-3344. We'd love to hear from you. We're talking safe neighborhoods. John, let's talk theory here a little bit. We touched on the community policing mindset and the implementation of creative problem solving, if you will, and how the police department handles business. In this day and age with the scrutiny behind tax dollars, I can see that there might be some that might say, wouldn't you better serve a purpose driving a car, handling calls, doing some other job within the department. Let's talk a little bit about the value behind community policing. Can you talk about that?
Sure. I think that when you when you have officers that are and they are out in cars and they will assist on calls and they'll take action on anything they see, but when they are devoted to primarily community outreach, long-term problem solving, and becoming experts in their specific areas, I think it's a benefit to the taxpayer, because the more we include the community in what we do and in the solution of the criminal problem, and even quality of life issues that may not necessarily come up from a criminal issue, I think then the community gets more bang for its buck, if you will. Three of the things that our office really concentrates on are the three that I mentioned: being an expert in our area. And by doing that, or rather, to do that, we review weekly all the criminal reports that come out of that particular area, and any other information that comes to us, so that we know exactly what the trends are, what's been happening in our area, things like that, so that we can impart that to the community, to patrol officers, and to even investigators who may not be integrated with one area because they're concentrating on a criminal problem in another area. Community outreach through neighborhood watch meetings, community meetings, things like that, crime prevention presentations. We do those for groups. We do those for business groups. We do those for homeowners groups. And then, to get out and do those kind of things, I think really increases our effectiveness, because, as you and I talked before the show, 160 years ago, Robert Peel was Prime Minister of England, and he said the community are the police and the police are the community. The only difference is that the police are the ones that are paid full-time to give attention to issues of police concern. So we do the heavy lifting. We will not break away from the caveat that we don't want you to get involved in a dangerous situation. We want you to be a good witness. We want you to call 911. But we also want you to know exactly what's going on in your area and to keep us informed of what you see and to come to us for information about what you should be looking for.
Now, Sir Robert Peel, a long time ago saying, the community is, or the police are the community are the police. That really hints at a strong community involvement in taking care of the neighborhood.
Absolutely. And
there was a time period where, modern policing evolved, through technology, cars, computers, radios, and got to an era where it seemed like we would respond, handle the problem, and leave. Cool. And the community policing, if I'm hearing it right and I understand it correctly, is getting back to community involvement, getting to know what's going on, and actually merging with the community, or blending in, if you will, to get a beat on what's happening so that we can better serve them?
Absolutely. One of the things that law enforcement went to some decades back was the professional or the traditional model of policing, which was separating ourselves from the community to maintain that professionalism and impartiality and whatnot. It's really well depicted in the old TV show Dragnet. And if you were born before 1970, you can Google Dragnet and see Jack Webb, just the facts man, completely separated from the community. I come in, I do the job as laid down for me, and then I go home. But with the community policing efforts, you go out and you integrate with the community, and you become more involved with the community. And it really does help bring about an understanding of what the community expects from us, and also let the community know what we do and why we do it.
I'll have to look that up on the internet when we get done here.
I think you've probably seen it. But
I'll take your word for it. Looks like we're getting another call here in a second. We're going to go ahead and show a PSA here in just a minute. The phone number when we come back for additional calls, we still have plenty of time, is 818-548-3344. It's 818-548-3344. Let's take a quick break and check out a PSA.
Hi, I'm 8 years old, and in the next 15 seconds, I'm gonna get hit by a car. Always look both ways before you cross. Drive with caution around kids. Traffic safety is everybody's responsibility. Watch the road. I walk to school every day with my friend Liliana. My mom told me we should be careful and watch out for cars. She says a lot of people drive fast in the morning because they're late for school or work. They don't always pay attention to the people crossing the street. My mom says don't assume drivers see you. That's why when I come to a crosswalk, I always remember what Walking Willie says. Wait, watch, and walk. Please walk defensively. It may save your life.
It's easy to tell if you've had way too many. But what if you've had just one too many? Buzz driving is drunk driving.
Welcome back to Behind the Badge. I'm Jason Ross. With me are Matt Zakarian and Sergeant John Gilkerson of the Community Policing Unit. We're talking safe neighborhoods. And we've got a call from Amy in Glendale. Amy, you have a question about permits for burglary alarms?
Yes, I was wondering if you needed a permit to have a burglar alarm in Glendale, and if so, how much does it cost?
That's an excellent question. Thanks for calling in tonight. Matt, I'm going to let you handle that one. I have no idea how much the permit costs.
Wow. I know it's free once you sign up for it and you don't have any false burglar alarms. So therefore that what you want to do is go ahead and contact the Glendale Police Department. It's a form you fill out. You get it turned in. They'll monitor your calls, of course. If there's an emergency, your alarm company will call the police department. We'll come out there. If it's a false burglar alarm, you will be assessed charges down the road. So there was a time when it was a certain amount of, I think it was $75 a year, and you had to pay that. But what they've done is they've gone through and they've actually lowered that to nothing if you don't have any calls throughout the year. So it's a great program. So by all means, call that number, Amy, 818-548-4840.
All right, so we're talking about free and exciting services that the department offers now. Matt, tell me about Glendale APBs. What is an APB?
Glendale APB is an all-points bulletin. What we do is we compile any kind of information that the actual police department deems necessary, that we don't want to spam you or send out any information that you wouldn't want to hear. So periodically, if we feel something, a missing person, we've had criminals that have fled in the areas, that we'll send out an APB through your phone number, and it'll call you and tell you that we have a problem. There'll be an email sign up. The email sign up is through GlendaleAPB.com, and you can sign up there. My boss says we won't be spammed.
All right, so you'll just get super important emails about whatever's happening at the moment, and no spam.
That's correct.
All right. John, can you tell the people at home a little bit about Everbridge?
Yes, I can. That's our mass notification system. Instead of you calling us for an emergency, we call you. If you have a phone set up in the city of Glendale, a landline, and you're currently enrolled in this is something that, in a partnership with between the police department and our Glendale Water and Power, they brought this program into Glendale, and Everbridge is actually a local Glendale company. It is a mass notification system for emergencies. So if there is an emergency, for instance, station fire, we used it during the evacuation period during the winter storms after the station fire. If there is an impending emergency that you need information about, we can call you and let you know. Your phone rings, you pick it up, and you get a recorded message from the police department about what the problem is and what you need to do to address it personally, whether it's evacuate or whatever the case may be. Now, if you have phone service in the city, then you're signed up for emergency notifications. But there are other levels of notifications. For instance, sort of like the Glendale APB website. You may get information on crime trends. You may get information on community events that are coming up, things like that, if you opt into the system. So you can opt into the system to receive notifications of things that are less than an emergency. And you can do it with a cell phone or any other device that you want to opt in. To opt in, you need to go to GlendaleWaterandPower.com, altogether, GlendaleWaterandPower.com. And there's a link on the right-hand side for a citizen notification system. Click on that, and it will take you through the process to sign up for that.
All right, so the Everbridge mass notification system is a little bit different from the APBs.
It is.
But it's a very similar, it's a way of getting notification from the police department about things that are very important.
Yeah, and it may be used for things other than law enforcement, that is the Everbridge. APB is a website you can sign up on. It requires only an email address. We don't even need your name and all that other information. You can simply use an email address. You'll be added to the distribution list. And we do that from the community policing unit. We send out APBs. So as Matt said, it may be burglary trends in an area. It may be, we had one where a pursuit ended on the freeway, on the 2 freeway. Suspect jumped out of the car, ran down the hillside, and hid away in the neighborhood. So we send out an APB on that. There's a description, what to look for. If you live in the area, stay in your home. Everbridge is very similar to that, but Everbridge goes out to either the whole city or a specific segment, depending upon where the emergency may lie.
All right. So we've got people need to sign up for Glendale APBs. Need to sign up for the mass notification system. They need to call Matt to form a neighborhood watch group. Now, what if you just want to know what's going on in the neighborhood? Do I live in a safe area? Are there issues that I need to know about? Is there a way of looking up crime statistics in a certain area for a certain neighborhood? Matt?
I can answer that. CrimeMapping.com, a fairly new online process that the Glendale Police Department has just partnered with. You can actually see the reports that are generated within the department within 24 hours of the actual report being taken by the officer out in the field. You'll actually be able to have alerts sent to your emails based on the criteria you actually input. So go to CrimeMapping.com. Check it out.
Well, sounds pretty good. Well, we've still got a little bit of time left in the show for some more calls. The number's 818-548-3344. We've got another call from George in Glendale. George, you've got a question about our air support unit?
Yes, like the other phone callers, I'd like to thank the police for the outstanding service that you provide our community. But I do have a question about the helicopters. I've noticed the low-flying helicopters around town here, And I was just wondering if that was a concern or should be a concern to myself, or if they're actually patrolling the streets, or if they're on calls, or if it's something I should be concerned about.
All right. Well, that's a really good question, George. I'm going to put you on hold here real quick. Luckily, Sergeant John Gilkerson is wearing some wings on his shirt. He used to work in air support, and he can tackle that question there, John. Helicopters.
Coincidentally, yes. The police helicopters generally patrol at an altitude that is gives them a chance to see a large area, and also keeps the noise up and away from the residents. The officers will fly down lower when they're working a problem, whether it's a pursuit or maybe a burglar alarm at a business or something like that. So they will, from time to time, come down, fly lower, get a better view, coordinate with units on the ground. Generally, they try to fly higher to keep the noise down. So it depends on who you're talking about as well. We have a helicopter that's up in the air for part of the day. We also have a lot of helicopters transitioning through town, news helicopters, private helicopters, other law enforcement agencies. So if you see a helicopter working in orbit over a fixed point on the ground, there's something going on. It may or may not be something for you to be concerned about. It just depends on what that problem is.
So typically, when you were flying a helicopter, you're out on patrol, you're in the air, waiting for something to happen where you might be needed, checking, I know that you would check fire roads and things like that to make sure they're secure, you don't have trespassers. You're going to remain at one altitude, and then if needed, there's a pursuit or there's a call that, requires an airship, or you're going to offer assistance to a call that the patrol unit is handling, you would drop down to a lower altitude to handle that?
Right.
All right. Well, appreciate the call, George. Thanks for calling in. I hope that answers your question. We're going to show another brief PSA here in a second, hopefully come back for a couple more calls, and we're talking about safe neighborhoods.
When you need a belt, you wear one.
You have the right to a safe school. If you or someone you know feels threatened, please call 507-7867 or 507-STOP. Solve a crime, remain anonymous, earn a reward. You might be saving a friend's life, or even your own.
Alone and crying, 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 cha-cha-cha-cha, crying is always good.
It's easy to tell if you've had way too many. But what if you've had just one too many? Buzz driving is drunk driving.
There we go.
There's something about you, baby. I can't get enough. There's something about you, baby. I got you looking at me. I'm gonna call you bluff. There's something about you.
The smallest moments can have the biggest impact on a child's life. Have you been a dad today?
Down to the morning light.
California is in a severe water shortage. Water conservation is now mandatory. Residents of Glendale, Burbank, and Pasadena can only water their landscapes 3 times a week, on Tuesdays, Thursdays, and Saturdays. As a reminder, water only after 6 p.m. and before 9 a.m. Find what else you can do to conserve more water by visiting www.glendalewaterandpower.com.
All right, welcome back. We're talking about safe neighborhoods. Matt, we've only got a couple minutes left. Let's hear about town hall meetings. I remember when certain people were running for the President of the United States, it became the big deal to have a town hall meeting. Do we have town hall meetings?
We have one, but not for the president. We have one for the chief. Coming up on September 15th, Verdugo Hills Hospital, chief wants to give a presentation about substance abuse. School will just be starting up. Last year we had some problems early on at the beginning of the years that we were able to knock out throughout the whole rest of the year, but I think some of the kids that were arrested, not necessarily in the schools, but some of the narcotics, we wanted to give an education to the parents to let them know what is going on in the schools and throughout the communities as far as the narcotics go. So that'll be September 15th, 6:30 to approximately, 6 o'clock to 7:30, Verdugo Hills Hospital in the main community room.
Now, in case people at home are like me and they'll forget when it's closer, is there a way for them to get more information on this? Look it up on the website, call your office to verify where to go or how to get there?
Well, it means you can call my office. The Montrose Substation office phone number is 818-249-8173. You can also call the 818-548-4015 number. That's the number we gave out earlier. If you press number 5, that'll get to my extension, and it'll actually ring my BlackBerry and let me know you're calling. And we can give you more information on that. GlendaleAPB.com. I'm sure we'll be sending something out over the Glendale APB regarding the next town hall meeting.
Now, that's the first of its kind. I don't think we've ever done one of those before, have we?
No, we never have.
All right. And last but not least, John, let's talk about volunteers. The volunteers we have at our department are directed by the community policing unit.
You know, they were until recently, and they went under the command of another bureau. But I'll give a plug to the volunteers. We have a good group of volunteers, probably about 30 who are involved on a regular basis, and a lot of them are retired, although being retired isn't necessarily a requirement. But we do have the RSVP, Retired Senior Volunteer Patrol, and these are people who are retired but still have the desire to give, and they're active, and so they come out and they work things like the security vacation checks. They'll work special events. They may do some parking enforcement, things like that. They're a real benefit to the agency. They help in a lot of ways. Others who aren't out in the field come in and work in the station in different capacities. So if people are interested and have the time to volunteer, particularly if they may be retired, particularly if they're fluent in a language other than English, I'd like to really encourage them to apply and come in and see if they'd like to volunteer for the agency. I think, again, it gives people a real insight into what we do, why we do it, and gives them a chance to contribute to the community.
All right. We're just about out of time here. Any parting thoughts for the viewers at home, John?
Keep us in mind if you're inclined to join forces with us in a community policing capacity. Give us a call, 818-548-4015, or look us up on the internet. In fact, you can get area command information and all the community lead officer information off the internet.
All right, Matt. Any parting thoughts, advice?
Let's get you in a neighborhood watch meeting. Come to our block captain's meeting. You can, again, get a hold of me, get a hold of through the 4015 number, 548-4015, and let's get you signed up. We can start getting you trained as a block captain.
All right. That'll just about do it. Thanks for tuning in to tonight's show. Stay safe.